Just in Compton is former IFBB Pro Bodybuilder, Arnold Classic contender and top 10 Mr. Olympia athlete. A coach with deep, hard-earned insights from years of self-coaching and elite-level experience.
I like to usually have 2 injectables along with an oral. 1,000 to 1,200 to me is that's like the breaking point. I don't want to go above that. So you can lift weights and have a shitty diet and still be a big guy.
Welcome.
How you doing, man? Hopefully everyone out there can understand me and hear me well.
Yeah, I hear you perfectly, so they should hear you perfectly as well, I think. First of all, what's up, man?
I'm just now kind of getting my day started. It's a Sunday, so I'm a little sluggish. I don't do a whole lot on Sundays, and my dog is sitting here begging for attention right now. That's what I keep looking over at.
How's your bodybuilding living right now? I'm always curious about it.
How's what?
Your bodybuilding lifestyle right now. Are you continuing to train to eat like a bodybuilder, or are you quite distant?
I haven't necessarily been eating like a bodybuilder for at least 2 years. Like I've been eating a lot more freely, and somehow I've been able to maintain the majority of my size and stay in good shape as well. That's a lot of genetics being able to do that. As far as actual training goes, this shoulder, oh boy. About 2 weeks ago, I think I've decided that I'm going to actually have to stop training completely for probably about a month. I'm going to go see either my old chiropractor in Jacksonville or potentially Mike Rice he's in Atlanta, Georgia. So I would have to fly to see him. But Mike and Dr. Allen in Jacksonville have both been able to kind of fix my shoulder literally in like one session. I don't really mess with too many chiropractors, but I think it's the bicep tendon that's kind of falling out of the groove, and I can't make it go back in on my own. I've tried all the self-adjustment techniques, but if that don't work, I guess I'm going to schedule another MRI, because I had an MRI back in 2017 and nothing was torn, but my AC joint was separated. And after about a year, I was able to train at full capacity on that, and now it's kind of flared up again. So, I mean, obviously my arm is functional, but if I try to put any like intense weight on it, it's not going to work.
You train your legs right now, or you
yeah, I'm still doing legs.
Yeah, because I think about how you do it mentally. If you cannot train at all, that will be horrible.
It's that was always one of my like when I was competing, you know, obviously we always have like aches and pains and nagging body parts and stuff, and that would always just like throw my mood off, you know, like if my elbow or something was acting up, I would allow it to affect everything else in my life. Like it would just put me in a bad mood all day. And I think with time and maturity, I've learned that that's my problems here doesn't affect things out here. So like, I don't let it bother me anymore.
Okay. Yeah. But right now you're actually not competing. So that's probably the reason why you can't do that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Before it was depending on your money, actually, or your living.
Yeah. That's how I survived.
You know? Yeah. Okay. But right now your competitors are actually competes, and you're a full coach, online coach, I think, or mostly online coach. So how's your coaching?
Dude, it's honestly, I can't complain at all. Like, I think everything is running on all cylinders as far as my business goes. I couldn't be happier, so to say, with my balance right now with how many clients I have versus my personal life. I've had times where I've had too many clients and I just felt like I wasn't able to do anything that I personally wanted to do. So sometimes life is not always about making the most money. You do have to find a balance on that. And right now, I think I'm pretty happy with about 100 people.
Oh, okay. Can you handle that much?
Yeah, I can. When I first started coaching people, I couldn't. It was like overwhelming to me. Like I remember back then, it was like 50 was like very overwhelming. Like I didn't know what to do with that. Now I've learned to adjust. And also I've kind of put boundaries on things. Like I have off-season clients this day, like these days, my prep clients these days. Oh. And I schedule things so that way I'm not getting like 50 to 100 clients. So like everybody checking in like within a 1 to 2 day period. That gets very frustrating, overwhelming, and just it makes me fall behind. And I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want people to wait I prefer to be able to respond to everyone within 12 hours, but worst case scenario within 24. Like I don't want any exceptions to that.
Yeah, I try to do the same actually.
There's been times that I have slipped on that, and I'm not proud of that, and I don't like it. But 24 is usually my maximum.
Yeah, if you've been coached by many of coaches, and you as a former competitor probably know how important it is to get the feedback from your coach. Yes, because
Yeah.
if you're waiting too long, you're starting to thinking too much actually.
Yes, your brain starts working.
Yeah, and that's the worst, especially when you're close to the competition. In the off season, it's fine because almost nobody, do the changes week to week because that's not even a good approach probably. But in the contest prep is actually very, very important to have a good communication with your coach, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so today we're gonna speak about building the perfect competitor. I wanted to talk about the middle heavy and heavyweight guide mostly, okay? Just because if we're gonna speak about women's category, classic physique, men's physique guys and stuff like that, it's gonna taking too long and nobody probably takes anything from this podcast. So first of all, we have to start from the bulking phase, from the off season, just because you have to put some muscle first to go to the stage probably. You should,
Yeah.
for the most part. So how do you set up your training during the off season from most of your clients?
So you're talking about like what I did or how I programmed?
No.
You're talking about building.
We're gonna talking about your clients and how you do this. Okay.
Okay, but you're talking about building like the perfect physique. So you're talking about like a rookie, because it sounds like you're kind of talking about rookies, or you're talking about top guys.
I'm talking about a guy who's actually right now, let's say 102 kilos, and he wanted to go to the open, and he's that's gonna be a first time with you. You have whole off season to work with him, and then we're gonna go through from the off season to the contest prep with him. Okay.
So training and nutrition is going to kind of go hand in hand. I like to fill people out and see how they've currently been training, what their style is. I personally prefer a higher volume approach. I like hitting everything one, sometimes 2 times a week. And not all my clients do this, but some of them, I mean, they're open to do this as well. Like I'm not upset if they do. If people want to send me training videos, I'll take a look at it and I'll say, you need to slow this down. You need to do this, you do that. We'll correct what needs to be done, because the thing with training is I can write you a program and it be the perfect program, but if you're not executing it properly in the gym, it doesn't matter. You know, like you're speaking about big guys here, heavyweight guys. At that point, they've obviously acquired a good amount of muscle. So it may not be the issue of adding 10 to 20 kilos to someone's frame, but more so just fine tuning what they got. So bringing up weak body parts, trying to figure out how to put things into just more balance. And to do that, I think your actual training techniques play the biggest role with that. You know, I see a lot of guys who, like when they're training chest, the way they position their shoulder blades, you know, they're engaging a lot of shoulder rather than actual pecs. And then the same with the elbow positioning. When they have it too far down, they're engaging a little bit more tricep than they would as well. Think about legs, you know, where you can, all the positions you can put your feet at on a hack squat and a leg press to be able to target different areas of your legs. So I think the biggest concept first is to make sure that the training is down pat. So like when I build the programs, I try to specify like wide grip, close grip, wide stance, close stance, and how I want things executed. Then we're going to kind of bring intensity into play. And this is also where, like, I've had a few clients send me videos before, and I'll write them back and say, you had more. You could have done more. Like you had more reps, you had more weight, and building that intensity is also going to be your mindset. And that's something that I try to prepare people for. Some people either have that hardcore mindset and is willing to go the extra step, and some people don't. You know, that's just kind of part of it, I guess. I can't coach you to be, I mean, I can try my best to coach you to be mentally strong, and I can tell you that you got more, but I can't make you do it though. Like I can't be there with you every training session. And that's something that I always told people when I competed. most of the time I was alone and there was no cameras on me. It was just me for the vast majority of the time. And that's when the real work is done. You know, we're not always going to be filming all of our sets. We're not always going to have a training partner. So those days that you don't have that extra motivation, you have to find it within yourself. You have to do that. You have to put in the work. When it's just you in the gym, you have to train as if all eyes are on you. So that's kind of step one, working with someone as far as training. And then nutrition, I do prefer to have the long off season with them. That way I can kind of see what their body's going to tolerate and what they're not going to tolerate, how lean they're going to stay. That way we can also dictate whether or not we need an 8-week prep, a 12-week prep, or a 16-week prep, just depending on how they're responding. Generally speaking, off season, I hate to use the word balanced, but, you know, high protein, and then I will have high carbs and also a decent amount of fats as well in the off season. And depending on how well they respond to that is going to kind of, again, figure out how long the contest prep is going to be and how I'm going to approach that. You know, some people do better with moderate carbs and higher fats. And then those type of people, generally speaking, in contest prep are going to do better on a low carb, higher fat plan, you know, almost keto style. And then other people are going to be the complete opposite. And I think a lot of that has to do with your training, because if you're training super high volume, you're going to need that extra glycogen in there. But then again, on the flip side of things, I have guys who do very hard, laborious jobs. You know, like if someone's doing like masonry construction and they're outside in the hot sun all day long and they're constantly lifting like center blocks, they're probably not going to go to the gym and be able to knock out 30 or 40 working sets. You know, it's going to be a little bit more of a low volume, progressive overload style approach. And generally speaking, that type of training is not going to require as many carbs as well.
Hugely sorry for the interruption, guys, but thanks to your comments, subscriptions, and thumbs up, I'm even able to create a podcast like you're watching right now. So if you can, please leave the subscription, comments, and simply a thumbs up. If you wanted to further support me, please use my code. And without further ado, let's get back to the podcast.
You say you prefer to do a longer off-season. What do you mean by that? How long is longer?
I like to have, let's say I'm going to do a 16-week contest prep with someone. I would like to have at least 3 months prior to that to be able to kind of fill things out and see where they're at and see how quickly they're going to respond. That way, the more I can learn about them, the better they're going to be. So, I mean, as far as the actual off season, because I can answer that question in a couple of ways, I like people to have a minimum 6-month break in between seasons. Like that's the minimum. I prefer 1 year. Like if you compete in September of 2022 and you shut down, I wouldn't want you back on stage till August or September of 2023. Okay. Unless, you know, you have a situation where, say, someone qualifies for the Olympia in March, April, May, or June, and then you have to do the Olympia in December. That's a different scenario. But generally speaking, the guys that's going to be doing the Olympia, they've already got the size that they need. So could we improve on it? Yes, but you know, you don't make it to the Olympia being outsized, generally speaking.
Okay. First of all, I have to ask how you count your macros, just because some people count it only from the meat sources, like a protein only from the meats, from the eggs, from the dairy and stuff like that. And some coaches count them from everything, like oats, pasta, and stuff like that. So how you count your macros?
I try to take everything into account. This is how I did it when I competed, and this is how I do it now with my clients. So like at the bottom of their plan, I don't actually specify X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, X amount of fats. I just write the portion size that I want them to eat. I put that in their plans, but I counted everything because I was a very high carb guy and I just couldn't. It's funny because I don't eat very great now, but when I competed, you know, I just didn't feel right eating junk food as like a source of just getting calories down. So like, for example, with oats and Ezekiel bread, I would eat a lot of red beans and black beans in the off season. Those type of foods are going to add up high in protein. So like people a lot of times would see me eating like 5 ounces of red meat with like 2 cups of rice and, you know, a cup or more of beans. I'm still getting 50 to 60 plus grams of protein off of that meal because I'm counting all the indirect protein sources. So like some of my clients may be eating 8 to 9 ounces of like protein on their meals, while other ones may be eating 5 and 6. But again, it depends on the carb source and how much we're using on that.
Okay, so how many grams of the protein you like to do with your heavier guys for the kilo of the body weight? You probably
Okay.
count it in a laps. I don't know the laps, so it's gonna be quite hard probably. But you can say, and I tried to translate it for the Polish people.
Okay, so generally speaking, I like to go about 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So that's going to be like is that like 0.8, 0.9 grams per kilo, somewhere in that ballpark?
It's low,
Or maybe
actually.
it's what?
It's low, actually.
Well, I mean, okay, so if a guy is, say, 300 pounds, and that's obviously a big guy in the off season, I want his protein intake to be somewhere between 450 and 500.
Okay. Oh, so it's gonna be a little bit more, I think, than 1.8 grams per kilo.
Okay, I got it backwards. I divided instead of multiplied.
Probably. I don't even know how to count it, so I'm not gonna.
1 pound, or sorry, 2.2 pounds is 1 kilo.
Yeah,
So it's actually double. Yes, my bad. I got that backwards.
Yeah. So from what you say, I think it's gonna be like a 3.5 to 4 grams per kilo, and it's actually quite high, on a higher end.
Okay. Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It depends on the digestion of the person, or what.
That can be a big role as well, because I do have some guys I notice when I bring their protein back to say, in this case, it would be about 2 grams per kilo. Now I'm actually understanding the conversion here. When I bring that back, I'll notice a much better midsection on them. Their midsection looks flatter. They can get more of a vacuum. And I would take aesthetics over anything else. So like, if I can see that me pushing the extra food at them is not doing them any justice, then I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I would rather take things a little bit slower and still be able to keep all of their lines and their aesthetics intact.
Okay, you said something about being balanced in the off season. So, what do you think about the proper diet in the off season? It should be very lean, or the dirty bulk is sometimes something you need to do?
Probably 90% of the time, I'm going to say lean, because I still want people putting in good, healthy, clean food. I don't want you eating just a bunch of shit food, messing with your cholesterol, messing with your insulin resistance. Like, just there's too many. Sorry, insulin sensitivity, not resistance. Yeah. I got confused there for a second, but yeah. I don't want people just eating freely, eating out of a fast food bag or anything like that, just for the sake of getting the calories. Now, that being said, I don't mind people going out and having a good time in the off season, because that's when you actually are going to be enjoying your family, your friends, your wife, husband, whatever. So having a couple of cheat meals a week, fine. I'm perfectly good with that. And every now and then I will run into the outlier. And what I mean by that is I'll get a guy who I will say, I want you to have a cheat meal every other day. Like, specifically, I want it to be, something out, and that's because I'm already pumping them with enough calories, and they still stay super lean, and they're still not growing on that. And I know if I try to say eat, 4 cups of rice or something like that, that's going to be intolerable. You're not going to be able to do that. So we'll get the calories in through cheat meals, but that's very rare that I will not start out that way with someone. Let's put it that way. That's not my first go-to.
Okay. And if you tends to give them a cheat meal, you say a range of the calories or the specific food, like burger.
That's how I prefer to do it. Okay. So I will tell them a range, like, I'm not going to sit here and say you have to have a burger and fries, or you have to have sushi. You got to bring your scale with you to the restaurant. Nothing like that. Just about every restaurant has a nutritional value on it. So a lot of it is going to be up to them. And I'll say this too to a lot of people: use better judgment. Be professional about it. So if I tell you to have 2,000 calories, that doesn't mean eat a whole large pizza. That's probably going to be 4,000 or 5,000 calories. The point is, I want them, say if it's in contest prep, I need them to kind of reset and fill back up a little bit. We don't want to go backwards on the conditioning. We don't want to reset any of the work that we've already done. And in the off season, I'm pushing you forward a little bit. I'm not looking for 4 or 5 pounds gain per week. That's obviously going to be putting on fat at that point, and we don't need to do that.
Okay, that perfectly makes sense for me.
I don't want them to eat a lot of processed stuff, although having a little here and there in the off season is not the end of the world. But like if I told someone 2,000 calories and they do a protein shake with an entire, big jug of ice cream, I don't want them doing that either.
Okay. And I want to ask you about the carb cycling in the off season. Do you use it? So
Not commonly. Not that commonly off season.
So you
Like I'll have people do what?
So you prefer to people eat the same amount of calories every day, or is divided by the training or non-training days?
The off days, you're going to get less calories just because I have a shake, sometimes a meal in there post-workout. So you are going to go down on the off days, but you're still going to be in a surplus even on the off days.
Okay, so it's like a mild carb cycling, yeah?
Yeah, it's not like if you're training 5 days a week, you're going to have 2 days that's just slightly lower than the others.
Okay, did you bump up the fats those days, or?
No, I leave the calories down on those. I mean, when I say the calories going to be lower, we're talking anywhere between 400 to 800 calories lower on those days. It's not like a 2,000 calorie drop.
Okay.
Yeah, if I were doing something like that, if there was a reason for me to do that and I need to drop someone very drastically on those days, I would pull the carbs back and I would potentially increase the fats some.
Okay. And what about in the case when some gaining too much weight from week to week? Did you incorporate some stuff like the Minicuts or just cutting the calories down drastically, or what do you do?
No, in case that I see someone who is persistently gaining weight rapidly, and usually this is where the scale is not always a big indicator, because I have a few guys right after the competition, like I've had 2 or 3 within the past 3 months, like is just like hyper responders to everything they do. And I sit there and I look at the pictures and I'm kind of like blown away. I'm like, this guy's put on like 25 pounds since a show and he still almost looks like show ready. So in a case like that, I'm not going to slow it down. I'll ask questions like, hey, how's your blood pressure? How's your glucose? If everything checks out and they're healthy and they're feeling good, I'm not going to slow that down. However, when I see that the scale's going up drastically and I'm looking at the pictures and I'm like, I can see some fat coming on here too. I may consider a carb cycle, but most likely I'm going to lower the calories back a little bit. And I'm going to increase the cardio some.
Okay, so what about the cardio in the off season, if you mention it?
I like to keep it kind of generic across the board until I have to do something like what I just mentioned. But I like for people to do like 30 minutes 3 times a week, 25 minutes 3 times a week. If someone I can tell if they need it specifically for their appetite in order to eat, I may say do 20 minutes 5 days a week. A little bit less duration, but more frequently to keep their appetite running. I remember at my peak calories that I had to eat, I had to do that as well a few times in order to make myself get the extra food in, because even when I would lower the calories back, I still wasn't hungry. That takes for me a week or 2 for that hunger to actually kick in if I do it with just food. But if I had the cardio in within a couple of days, the appetite's there.
Okay. And what are the biggest diet mistakes that athlete can make in the off season, in your opinion?
Probably what we were just talking about with like dirty bulking. A lot of people are still onto that. And I mean, that's fine for some people. Like you have some people who could just tolerate a lot of calories, but the biggest mistake is actually letting yourself get too far out of shape. So obviously that's diet related, but that's going to vary from one person to the next, because some people can eat almost like a contest diet in the off season. And that's what it takes in order to keep them lean. My kind of rule of thumb is like, I would prefer to be able to see your abs in the off season. They don't got to be in contest shape by any means, but I would prefer that. Okay.
So you like to keep your guys quite lean actually year round.
The leaner, the better. But you also got to realize with some people, your body's going to try to reach like a homeostasis state, like right after a competition. Some people are just not going to stay that lean year round. It's just not going to happen with some bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed this as well. So that's definitely truth.
And that's
Okay.
where you have to kind of, you have to be able to have the knowledge to work with this body type and that body type and realize the diet is not going to be the same and how they respond.
Are you fine with talking about the PEDs, GH, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm good. I didn't
Okay.
bring it up yet because I wasn't sure how you felt about it, but
I'm fine. We're not going to talk about dosages, obviously, just because that's irrelevant, and that's something that should be very specific to the person. But we're going to talk about the general stuff, just to clarify some things. So, what are the best compounds for building mass in off-season, in your opinion?
I like to keep things basic. Like, I like to usually have 2 injectables along with an oral. The oral can be subjective from one person to the other because when it comes to their appetite, if you're not able to eat, that oral has to go. Like, there's no way around it. Like, I don't want to try to add drugs to grow whenever you're not eating. Eating's going to be, you got to train in order to grow, and you got to eat in order to grow. Drugs, in my opinion, come last. So if the drugs is affecting 1 and 2, we're not getting anywhere. So for me, test is going to be the base, and then either DECA or EQ is usually my go-to. Some guys respond better to DECA, some guys respond better to EQ. We talk about the side effects. Like, I've started to notice a small percentage of people have anxiety with EQ, and then a lot of guys with DECA will have DECA dick, or they'll have prolactin progesterone issues and start, having some gyno flare-ups. So we want to smash that. So when it comes to that, obviously we would either counter that with Caber or Dostonex, or we would just change the compound completely. My vote is to change the compound completely most of the time.
Okay. So do you prefer the higher tests approach, or do you like the lower test approach and higher anabolic?
Okay, so we weren't going to talk about dosages, but we will have to talk about dosages on that question. So higher test and lower test is going to be subjective for what, like, one person may say it's high, one person may say it's low. Generally speaking, 1,000 to 1,200 to me is that's like the breaking point. I don't want to go above that. Have I went above that? Yes. Have I had clients go above that? Yes. But that's usually where I like to keep it at. There's a few circumstances where we may go higher. Low end, if someone's a rookie and they can respond, the lower the better. Like, if I get a guy who comes to me and he is genetically blessed and he looks great and he's growing on 400 milligrams, I'm not going to say, cool, let's go from 400 to 1,000. It's not necessary. Yeah. So we may go from like 400 to 500 or 600. That would be it. We don't need to make massive jumps. So the test is as needed, so to say, whether it be 400 milligrams, maybe up to 1,200 milligrams, varying from person to person. And hopefully the people that's listening, if they're a guy who's using 500, hopefully that statement would let them know that they don't need to go from 500 to 1,200 on their next cycle. They don't need to get crazy with it. I've met a lot of people over the years, just friends that's kind of come and gone from the gym, and they'll take their first cycle, and by the time they're at the 3rd cycle, they're taking what a top level pro is doing, and it's just not necessary.
Yeah, I've noticed this, that people too much rely on the drugs. Definitely, this is why I doing those podcasts. I have a lot of Polish coaches, just because I'm from Poland, so that's obvious. Yeah. And I've always tried to mention that the PEDs are important. That's nothing that we can hide, actually. But it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is doing everything to the T. So your diet, your sleep, your recovery, your physiotherapy, your everything, hydration, everything is important. And then comes the drugs. And actually, as you say, as lower as you can, but as much as you need. That's the only truth.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I mean, I've said it before, like, the reason drugs come last in the equation is because, one, if you don't lift weights, you're not going to grow. Yeah. So you can lift weights and have a shitty diet and still be a big guy. right? You may look
Yeah.
like a power lifter or something, and that's no disrespect to them. I mean, most of them are not super lean. Some are. But then in order to look like a bodybuilder, you're going to have to eat the proper food. So in order to put on muscle tissue and actually look the way you want to look, that's food. And then drugs is going to come in last with that, because without the diet and without the training, you can take all the drugs you want and you're just going to look like an average guy. So that's why I think people need to emphasize on diet and training long before they start talking about gear.
Yeah.
You know, I've met so many people throughout my life that will say, "Oh, I've been training for 2 months and I'm trying to diet. Should I take tests?" No, you're not there yet.
I think the reasonable time to start is after 3 to 4 years, if you have the base, actually, because that, I think that's the time that you probably, if you're doing it everything right, reach your genetic potential when it comes to building the muscle. So that will be the perfect scenario for me. 3 to 4 years, that's good, I think.
I think I was at 5.
Yeah, but
But I was a teenager though. Like I waited till I reached 20 before I did that.
yeah, but people are too impatient. So 5 years sounds like a eternity for them. So
Yeah, no, right.
yeah, but I think the best approach is not to start, but everyone knows it. If you wanted to compete on the level that everyone wants to, you have to. So that's the harsh truth. Okay, so what about stuff like GH in off season? You think the more is more or the less is more, like they say?
That's kind of also subjective from one person to the next. Like if you've never taken GH before, ever, low end 2, high end 5 for someone who's never taken it. And sorry, high end 4, my bad. 2 to 4 if you've never taken GH. And you're going to see good results off that. You got to think about the side effects from it. I remember when I first took GH, my hands hurt so bad. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, like I just wanted to like punch a hole in the wall or something because I'd be fucking angry, man. Like I couldn't sleep. And back then I actually could sleep a little bit. Now I struggle really bad with just insomnia and I don't do anything. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to do about it right now. But yeah, the GH would hurt my hands all the time. So 4 IU is going to be the maximum I feel like for a rookie getting started. And when it comes to growth, I would like to see a lot more people do this. Like they don't, but I'd like to start seeing people get more echoes when they're doing that, just because heart enlargement is always a big concern with that. I know some guys who's taken as much as 20. I know a few guys have taken more than that, but I'm saying I know a couple of guys who've taken as much as 20 and they've had echoes and they're perfectly fine. Like, however, that may not be the typical results for everyone. So that would be my biggest concern with growth hormone in high amounts. Obviously, it's going to make you a little bit insulin resistant. So that could be something if you want to touch on that here in a minute as well. So check your glucose as well, because the higher the GH, most likely it's going to make your glucose go higher as well. So that's something that people need to take into consideration. For me,
And also
I
the
found
thyroid.
my perfect sweet spot was around 8 to 9 units in my off seasons.
Okay, it's quite reasonable, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that that's like freakishly high, but it's not a low dose either. It's not a rookie dose.
Yeah. I the most I've tried was 15, and that was not a problem for me because I never have a problem with my wrists or stuff like that. So that's a good thing when it comes to that. But I don't think that going over 20 is necessary for most of the people, especially if they are not that big yet.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to explain this to a guy recently. He was kind of getting this message. He's a friend of mine. I know him. He's from back where I used to live at. And he's not a pro at the moment. And he's talking about using XYZ stuff. And I said, think about this. Like, if you have to take that to become a pro, which he doesn't, like I genuinely believe this man can do this on much, much less, just because I know him a little bit. But if you're taking that to become a pro, no one ever just gets their pro card and says, okay, I'm done. You know, you always want to at least test the limits in the pro league.
Yeah.
And what's most people do once they turn pro? They need to get bigger in order to be competitive with the other pros. So it's like, if you jump from 0 to 100 with your gear, where are you going to go from there? It's like, if you had to take 20 to get your pro card, where are you going to go after you get your pro card? You're out of options, in my opinion. I mean, sure, you can take more. I just don't know what your body can or cannot tolerate at that point.
Yeah, yes. You have to take into consideration everything, like you said, but some people just don't. They're thinking about those days here and now. So this is the problem for most of the people. But we're not gonna lie, most of the guys are not gonna reach higher than pro card. Actually, for most, even the pro card is actually the top of the limit, and
Yeah.
that's where their career actually is over. And so in those cases, if it's needed and if it's something that will help them with their life or just fulfill their dreams, I think it's something that you can consider, actually. Don't know
Yeah.
if you agree with me.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next question, and it's gonna be about the insulin. Because if you are using a GH, you probably have to use insulin, or at least it will be preferable to use it. So, what do you think about the insulin in the off season?
So this can be a double-edged sword on how to answer that. Like me personally, my glucose would always hover. This is on 8 to 9 units, and this was high carbs. My glucose would hover between 95 and usually like 101, 102, maybe 103. That's at the peak. And that's talking almost 1,000 grams of carbs a day, along with that much GH. And I was fine with that. You know, some of these guys prefer their glucose to be much lower than that. But really, in my opinion, if you're under 120, especially in your off season, you're fine. I don't see any problem with that. Now, I didn't check it after I would go eat like, you know, a couple of slices of cheesecake or anything like that. I didn't check it all the time. Like I wasn't that relentless with it. But generally speaking, if I checked it frequently, I was never high. But that being said, not everyone is going to get that lucky. You know, I've seen guys on lower amounts of carbs start having high glucose levels. And at that point, you have to make a decision. And I don't like to make that decision for the person. I want them to consciously make this decision. I'll explain both the risk and the reward with it. But either one, we back off, take the growth hormone out. And that's actually my preferred method. But some guys don't want to do that, though. Like they're hell bent. So my job then is going to say, okay, if we're going to leave the growth hormone in, we have to do this the most healthy and effective way possible. And this is where we'd have to add insulin in. And if we're both on the same page with it, that's where you're going to kind of play with the insulin. And if you start having, if you're becoming insulin resistant due to growth, I'm not a big fan of using Lantus, the long-acting insulin. I don't like it, but this is a good application that it can work good because the growth is likely going to have your blood sugar elevated, not just here and there throughout the day. It's going to be a constant thing all day long. So I think the Lantus can actually be more effective for that particular solution. Now, insulin can also play another role as well, as far as like shuttling nutrients into the muscle. Like I think if you're doing insulin pre and post workout, then the fast acting insulin is going to come into play there. But again, the fast acting insulin, sure, you could technically take a shot with every meal and it'll work as good. But like, I don't condone anyone do that. I've never had anyone do that. I've never done that. And I'm never going to tell anyone to take a shot of insulin with every meal. That seems extremely excessive. But some guys I've seen do it.
Yeah, that's the microdosing approach, actually.
Well, sometimes it's not even microdosing. Like I've seen people use as much as like 6 to 8 units of Humalog with their meals in order to drop their blood glucose quickly.
For like, some, it's micro.
Yeah, well, okay. To me, 6 to 8 units is not micro. Yeah, to me, that's a pretty good dose.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm just laughing just because there's some people like Milos, for example, who loves his insulin and he's known to use over 100 units a day.
Yeah.
with people. Jordan Peters actually talking about the usage, the insulin with him, and it's actually that was a higher amount of the insulin. So okay, right now I think I asked about everything I wanted to know about the off season. I think. Did you have something to add to this?
Not
Oh,
right off. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot we could cover if we sat down and thought about it.
yeah. What about glucose disposal agents? Do you use it with your
Not
clients?
commonly, not the over-the-counter stuff, not that commonly. With if I can see your glucose is just a tiny bit high, that would be the first route.
I'm talking about the stuffs like a chromium, like an alpha lipoic acid, like a berberine, not over the counter.
Hang on a second. I'm sure you can hear this in the background, right?
Yeah, but that's nothing that's bothering me.
Yeah. That's my dog. When he drinks, he literally drinks like 2 liters of water at a time.
I know. I listened to all of the podcasts with the Austrian Power. That's his name. Yeah, yeah. I love your podcast.
Okay. You good? You gonna be okay? Okay. No, back to that question though. I don't commonly put those supplements in.
Okay. Is this a reason why not, or do you think just is not that important?
I don't think the amount of money that's going into it for a lot of people is actually going to be worth it. Like from my own personal experience, there's only been a couple of products that I've actually seen that genuinely work. Like obviously chromium and was it cinnamon? Like there's a specific kind of cinnamon. I don't even use it anymore. This goes to show you that I don't really pay much attention to it. They do work, but they work kind of like on a very small scale for me. Yeah. And I just don't really see the real need of putting those in. Okay. Like I said, unless someone's actually having like actual glucose issues, then we'll talk shop on that. Okay. Like for me personally, if my body can maintain 75 to 90 on the blood glucose, I don't feel the need to actually add a GDA in there.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Like some people want to have their glucose under 60, and I don't know what units you guys use in Poland. I have a feeling it's a different unit.
The same, yeah. No.
Oh, it is
the same. Yeah, it's not a liters, nanograms per milliliters, something like that.
Yeah. So getting it below 60, I feel very uncomfortable. Because my blood glucose has been below 60 before. That's when I'm going to start feeling a little wonky. Like
actually, I think that's,
I wouldn't say truly hypo, but you're getting closer.
Yeah, and that's actually counterproductive in the off season when it comes to building muscle. Just because when your blood sugar is too low, your amino acid starts to
break down.
Yeah, and convert it into the glucose. So that's actually what the glucagon role is. So that's not even a good approach, I think. But some coaches likes to use the GDAs very often just to for the better partitioning of the micronutrients, or just to shuttle the carbs better. So just in this scenario. So I think maybe you use the same approach, but if not, it's okay. So can we transition to the prep mode right now?
Yeah.
You ready for that? Okay, you have some time more?
Yeah, we're good.
It's gonna be like a 30 minutes, I think, no more, because I have just a few questions more, maybe just more than few. But okay, do you like to do some kind of deloads, or just like a health phase or TRT phase? I don't know how to actually name it, just before the competition, or do you think that that isn't the best moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, let's say the contest prep starts at 12 weeks out. Well, let me rephrase that. The cycle itself, not just the contest prep, because sometimes we may start the cycle at 15 weeks out, but some of these guys I work with, they don't have to diet but more than say 7, 8, 9 weeks. That doesn't mean that we're not technically in prep mode. We're just not actually like dieting down at that point. But when it comes to starting like a contest cycle, I would prefer someone to be off a minimum 6 weeks. It don't always work out that way, but that's my rule of thumb. I like for someone to be off, like say, if we're doing 16-week prep, by 24 weeks out, you should either be off and on PCT or down to TRT. We need to clean things out a bit.
Okay. And what's next? So, because if they are like a 6 to 8 weeks off, they probably look miserable. So do you think that's the good moment to start the prep, or do you incorporate like a few weeks of the bulking phase before?
That also kind of depends on their conditioning. Like if I have guys who can grow into the show, absolutely, 100%. But some of these guys, not again, it's like a 50-50 thing. Some guys are not going to grow into the show. Instead, they probably could if you did a little bit longer. But if you have someone who is notorious for getting to about 4 or 5 week out conditioning and struggling at the end, those are going to be the guys that I'm going to push hard right out of the gate, because I want to make sure that their conditioning is 100%.
Okay, and how many weeks you like to take for the off-season, for the competition season? Like a 12, 16 weeks, 8 weeks?
That's going to vary. Like, so the first thing, if I haven't worked with that person in the off season, I'm going to look at them and kind of assess, like, okay, we got 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, ever how much weight that I think they need to lose. I'm going to average. I like to go 2.5 to 3 pounds per week. And again, this is where if I work with someone in the off season, I can kind of give you almost like an exact amount of weeks that need to be done. But if you came to me at 10 weeks out, it just kind of like, if I see you at 10 weeks out and I say, there's no way you're going to be ready in 10 weeks. I'm just going to tell you that up front, honestly. And then if I see you at 10 weeks out, I may not even push the gas on you till 6 weeks out. Again, it just kind of varies from person to person with that. So the amount of weeks that someone needs, it depends on your starting point. Like when let's see, what year is this? I think this was 2012 when I competed for my pro card. I think we did a 12-week contest prep, 12 or 13. And obviously I came in shredded. I got the job done. But when I won the Golden State Pro, I only did a 5-week contest prep. And I won that pro show in 5 weeks. But my starting point was right where it needed to be. I looked like I was 5 weeks out when I was 5 weeks out. So it just depends on the starting point to really say how many weeks a person's going to need.
Yeah, that's obvious. I just thinking you have the like a perfect scenario thing. So if someone are on point, it's 12 weeks, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. So how's the training change in the contest prep?
It don't. I don't like to change it. I like to keep that rolling. Again, I'm more of a higher volume type guy, but I remember Dorian, Dorian was the opposite. He was more low volume, but he made the comment, like, if this is what built the muscle in the off season, why would you change it during contest prep? I think at this point in 2022, we've established that higher reps does not mean you're going to be, more detailed or polished. So again, if we were doing high volume in the off season, why would I change that during prep? The only time I may consider changing it is if someone's calories are getting to the point where they're struggling, like they're just struggling to function. At that point, I may say, okay, we need to lower back the volume a little bit, but still I want them training just as intense in the prep as they are in the off season. I don't want them to specifically lighten the weights to do more reps. Like that's a huge no-no for me.
Okay. So how's the calories approach when it comes to the going into the contest prep? You like to cut a bigger amount first, or cut it slowly week to week?
So if I've done a few shows with a person and I know how they're going to respond, like for example, I had 2 guys this past weekend I had 3 guys in North America, but I'm only going to talk about 2 of them because their preps were polar opposite of each other. So Paul's prep, I don't have to push him hard right out of the gate, but we've also done like 4 contests together. So I know how he's going to respond. Like whenever I started with Sam, I started very aggressively with him because we had a short amount of time to get the job done, and I wanted to make sure that we got it. So, and both of them walked away with their pro cards. The other guy had James. I've done multiple shows with him, and I also just kind of go slowly starting out. But when I'm working with someone for the first competition ever, I generally speaking like to go a little bit aggressive the first week or so. And then, you know, if you still got a little bit of fat on you, you're not going to flatten out and start losing tissue right out of the gate. So if I can see that things are going to be moving quickly, that's when we're going to actually increase the calories and go back up if necessary.
Okay.
But I'm thinking, let's say you're eating 4,000 calories at 12 weeks out, and I say it's time to start prep. And this is our first time working together. I may drop you from 4,000 to 3,000 the first week to see how well you're going to respond. And if you're doing great, we may not have to go lower than that at all, or we may have to drop harder in time.
Mm-hmm. And what about those people who actually not quite responsive, but they just need a little bit more time to like start the engine? You know, those types of guys. Sometimes you
100%.
cut almost like a half the calories. They send you a check-in and they are 1.5 kilo plus.
Okay, my weight didn't actually go up, but like I'm going to talk about myself on this one, for example, because I can relate to this question. So the year that I did nationals and I turned pro, I don't feel like I was at the best starting point for that contest. And that was the problem, is my starting point sucked. And whenever I started my diet, we dropped for 2 or 3 weeks, we dropped the calories pretty aggressively. And by 8 weeks out, I was like, man, I'm fucking starving. Like, this is terrible. I don't like this at all. And then by the time I was 5 weeks out, the calories started just going up every single week. I was basically eating my way into the show. So I do see that a lot with some people. It's like getting their metabolism jump started right out of the gate. And that may take 2 weeks, that may take a month, but when it takes off, those are usually the guys that you're going to increase calories and decrease cardio from week to week.
Yeah. Okay. So what about the PEDs change in the contest prep? Where are actually the time you start to incorporate more of the drier stuffs?
So I don't think anything like Tren or Masteron or Winstrol should be, you could do 12 weeks of like Tren, I think, but I don't really like to go any more than that. Generally speaking, 8 to 10 on Tren. Masteron, I like to hold out to around 6 to 8 on that one. Just because if your body fat's not quite there, I don't feel that that drug is going to do what it's supposed to do. Winstrol, I'm not a big fan of Winstrol long term. 6 weeks, I mean, assuming that the client doesn't have any other competition drugs at their disposal, we may use 8 weeks of Winstrol, but 6 is usually where I like to put Winstrol in at. I just find it to be very harsh on your joints, and it was with me and most of the people I work with. Excuse me. So I would like to minimize that. Stuff like a Remedex, any type of AI, we'll start those right out of the gate, you know, right in the beginning. But I also use AI in the off season as well. I do want to control the estrogen if it's needed. So clenbuterol is going to be very subjective from one person to the other. If they're losing fat without it, I mean, hell, I would love to be able to do someone's contest prep without clen. Sometimes they need it. Most of the time, people will end up using it. 90% of the time, they're going to be using it, but I don't immediately start that right out of the gate. I add that in when it's necessary, and the dosage will change as it's necessary. Let's see. So test will be in there, obviously. And then I will have either, I like to tell guys to use EQ instead of Primo, because I'm just so worried that they're either going to get fake Primo and get nothing, or they're going to pay the extra $1 to get Primo and they're actually still getting EQ.
Or Winstrol.
Or that too.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, who knows what else?
Or Masteron or any of the DHT derivatives.
Do what?
Or any of the DHT derivatives. Yeah,
it could be
Masteron
like in there. It could be DECA in there for all we know. I mean, it could be anything on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what about the GH?
So GH, I will leave in, like whatever we're doing in the off season, I'm perfectly fine. I don't need to increase or decrease the dosage to contest prep. So the GH, I'll leave that in till usually around 2 or 3 weeks out with people.
Okay, and you divide it through the day, or you do like a whole of the shot before? Or
no, I like 2 doses, unless it's like unless the person's using like 3 to 4 units. If you're using 3 to 4 units, we can take all that at once. But if you're using anything above 4, I like to split that into 2 dosages.
And it's going to be where?
First thing in the morning, and then like 30 minutes before you eat. And the next one is, it trips a lot of people out because they see all these other coaches do it a different way. But I like to use it pre-workout. That's from trial and error on my own experience. That's when I felt like I got the best results out of that, was pre-workout. A lot of times guys like to use it post-workout, and I didn't feel like it was as effective for me.
Yeah, I've noticed the same. I like to use, especially in the off season, the whole dose with insulin before the workout.
I've done it that way a few times as well.
Yeah, and it's great actually. Yeah, even though if I take a 10 IUs, it's going to be a whole 10 IUs before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this is the tricky question. Do you leave the GH through whole the contest prep and even of the show day, or do you?
Oh, no. I just answered that a second ago. I typically will pull it 2 to 3 weeks out.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, okay. I like to pull that 2 to 3 weeks out. I have had some guys, myself included, I think I can run GH all the way to the competition and be fine. Not everyone gets that lucky. You know, you've seen some guys when they take the GH out, they'll lose 5-6 pounds. And some guys, you know, when they add GH in, they'll gain 5 to 6 pounds. So I kind of take that into consideration on how they're looking. Like if you can be ready to walk on stage at 2 weeks out with the growth hormone in, I'm probably not going to take it away.
Okay. And what about the injectables? Where do you pull it out?
Usually about three days out, mostly just because I don't want any lumps or any marks on the skin or anything like that.
Okay. Do you pull the test completely or lower as much as you can, or you leave it as it is if it's okay?
That's going to vary from person to person as well. Generally speaking, I like to leave it in, but there is a few people that I will remove it on.
Okay. The question about the diet. Do you like to raise the protein closer to the show, or you leave it?
Not necessarily. I like to leave it right at that 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. A lot of these guys, here's how I look at it. If you increase your protein beyond what your body actually needs, then that's going to be just extra calories that you're going to have to burn off in order to actually start burning body fat. I think from 2013 to 2014, when I took my own prep and started doing my own thing, I think that was a big lesson that I learned. And this was a trial and error. It worked really great for me, and it seems to work great for other people as well. I kept my protein the same. And I think at that time I was doing 375 grams. That was my total protein. And I kept it there the entire prep. And I just noticed like my digestion was better. Because I didn't increase the protein. Typically speaking, in the past, I would increase the protein a bit. But I kept it at 375 and my digestion was better. And I noticed I didn't have to do near as much cardio. So, you know, I started thinking about that. And I was like, okay, I was probably used to 550. I would say 550 grams. You know, that's an extra 175 grams of protein per day. You know, if you multiply that by 4 to get your total calories, I was like, that's a whole cardio session.
Yeah.
That's a whole cardio session that I would have to do just to get into that, you know, caloric deficit in that fat burning zone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Now, I'm not saying like, if a guy does 1 gram per pound of body weight in his off season, I might take that up to 1.5 in prep. But I see guys get between 2 and 3 grams per pound of body weight in their contest prep, and I just think that that's excessive.
Yeah, it's too much for the digestion, I think. Actually, especially if you can have more carbs. That's probably
exactly. I would much rather
better. Do that. Yeah, actually, that's what I'm thinking. What about the cardio? Do you like to your guys do more cardio and eat more, or less cardio and less food?
I would rather do. Well, you got to find a balance. When you say less cardio, I don't want to cut someone's calories to the absolute minimum in order to get out of doing cardio. But at the same time, I look at it, if you're eating 400 plus grams of carbs a day, I really don't need you doing 90 minutes of cardio to go through that. That's too much. So if we got to go above, once we get to 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week, that's like the minimum that I don't really bat an eye at 30 minutes 5 times a week. I don't like to increase the cardio above that if the calories and carbs are still super high. So at that point, I'm going to start working my way down on the food. And that's where you got to kind of find that balance where the person's still able to stay full and they're still losing body fat versus just flattening out if you take too much food away.
And what kind of cardio do you prefer? The least?
This will be, this may be strange to some people. Oh, let me back up a second. You asked me about list cardio versus high intensity.
Yeah.
I will start out with list cardio. That's my preferred starting point. And if we need, I like to save the HIIT cardio as just a tool if we need it later on. But I actually commonly prefer my cardio to be either elliptical, bike, or treadmill, and not on the stair stepper. I will use the stair stepper on a lot of guys towards the end, but I definitely don't want to start out with that. If they choose to do it, that's fine. But that's not going to be my recommendation right out of the gate. And my biggest concern with that is the actual impact that's going to be on your feet, your heels, your knees, and your hips, versus you're constantly just slamming those steps up and down for 30, 40 minutes or an hour. I would much rather have it on the elliptical, and that way your joints are not taking that impact.
Okay. And what about the cheat meal or refeeds during the contest prep? What do you prefer, the cheat meals or control refeeds?
Well, obviously these would be as needed from person to person, but if the person has an incredibly good metabolism and I know that they can handle it, and also this is a trust issue from one client to the next. If I feel like I can say, go out and have a burger and fries, and I know you're just going to have a burger and fries and you're going to get right back on plan after that, that's cool. But if I think to myself, like, okay, if I give this guy or this girl this burger and fries at say 6 o'clock tonight, they're going to eat something at 8, something bad at 8 o'clock, something bad at 10 o'clock. They're going to wake up in the middle of the night and eat more. If I think that's going to trigger you to binge eat that day, I'm not going to do it. I would rather you just keep that completely out of your plan. Now, that's not often. I do prefer a clean carb up. That way I can control the variables. But again, if I got that guy who's just, or girl, I've had a few as well, who just has the freaky metabolism that I can send them out for food, that's great too. But I prefer the clean carb up. That would be my first choice.
Okay, that's reasonable, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now I have something called peak week. And everyone knows it like thinking about a peak week like a magic thing. Like you can instantly get in shape in 1 week just because it's called peak week. But let's say we have a guy who's actually ready. And the first question is going to be, how long before the peak week do you tell your guys to level out their water and sodium intake? Just do you know how to raise it?
Okay, so like you said, there are a lot of guys when it comes to peak week, they expect miracles to happen. And usually the opposite happens. You very rarely ever see someone who looks so-so at 1 week out, and then they look amazing on stage. It's usually the opposite. You see someone look amazing 1 week out, and then they kind of just blow it on stage. You can take a 16 or even a 20-week contest prep and literally piss it out the window in 24 hours if you do this wrong. Sometimes simplicity is the actual key with this. So usually I'll start handing around like all my plans. I give people like, this is your minimum water intake. I want you to get this much down. If you go above it, fine. But I want to make sure you get a minimum down. But usually around 2 or 3 weeks out, I'll say, hey, the only reason I don't give them a specific amount is because some people sweat a lot more than others. Some people may work outside, so you need more water than the guy sitting in the office all day that's doing nothing. besides training and eating. So I'll ask them, like, what's your normal? If your normal's like 8, I'll say, cool, keep it there. I'll make a note to it. I'm like, okay, they're drinking 8 liters, and I just want you to keep it there, regardless of the circumstances. We'll keep it there. The sodium, I'll tell them as well. Like, I don't want you to pull your sodium, but I want you to be incredibly consistent with the sodium. Keep it the same every single day. And then I don't typically water load. You know, a lot of guys like to load the water. I don't do that. I like to keep it high the whole time. And then the last day or two is when we're going to start adjusting downward as needed. And that can vary from person to person as well. Like some guys I have will still drink 5 liters of water, 6 liters of water one day out, while others I can bring down to 2.5 to 3 liters of water at one day out.
Okay. And what about the diuretics use? You like to use it mildly or just the natural diuretics?
No, I typically do use diuretics, but I like Diazide. I think that's going to be the healthiest and also the most friendliest for us from a bodybuilding standpoint. I have seen people, this is a few people that I've actually, I wouldn't say I didn't help them, but I just kind of like, they say, hey, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? I'm like, it's on you, man. This is your prep, not mine. But like I'll see people use Lasix and Demodex, and I don't like that because the results are very uncontrollable, so to say. Like you may peak in like 2 or 3 hours after using one of those drugs, and then you're done. Like once you go flat, it's really hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
Like once you've already pulled 10 pounds in 10 hours, it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah, in Poland, there was a trend to use a lot of Aldactone lately. Right now, it's better with this, but I know the people that use over 400 milligrams, even multiple times a day. So it's like
400 milligrams of Aldactone.
Yeah, like 3 to 4, let's say. Every 4 hours or something like that. So people like that, that's impossible to even fill out just because the nature of the drugs and blocking the aldosterone receptors. So it's probably they have to, I don't know how many salt eats, like 50 grams. I don't know how even it's possible to fill out. That's probably only way it's using a lot of insulin, a lot of salt, and a lot of shitty foods. Otherwise, you're screwed.
See, I don't like Aldactone for that very reason. Is it makes it, if someone has to cut weight, I can understand why they might want to do that. But I really just don't like using Aldactone because I find it to be incredibly difficult to actually fill up with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about 300 or 400 milligrams a day. I've never heard of anyone doing that before.
Yeah.
But I'm talking just on 50 milligrams a day. It's hard to fill up with that.
Sometimes even less if you start very early, because I know the bikini chicks who starts Aldactone like almost a month, 4 weeks before the. Yeah, I don't know why, but some coaches here do those stuffs. I don't know how it's even can help them.
That doesn't seem smart at all.
Yeah, that's stupid. It's not even that's not even a take into the consideration.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like if anyone told me that I need to take a diuretic at 1 month out, like I'm not even like, not only are you not going to be coaching me, we're probably not even going to be friends at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, but people do crazy stuff. So sometimes if you see those peak weeks that people brings to you from their recent coach, it's quite scary.
I've seen a lot of extreme stuff over the years.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen
some very extreme protocols.
Yeah,
but I've still never seen anyone do 400 milligrams of Aldactone. Like I feel like you would have to be drinking like 3 gallons of water, like a minimum 12 liters, and like you said, you have to have like 50 grams of salt just to not be cramping up all day.
I have 3 people in my head right now who I know they use more than 400 milligrams daily.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that's not even something that they are shy of. Actually, they're speaking about it openly. So, and that was the days that people think they actually you have to do this. So that was the norm here a couple of
Wow.
years ago. Yeah. Okay. So, what do you do with your guys actually when it comes to the carbing up? Do you carb your guys often of the junk food, or you always prefer to carbing up from the foods that they use throughout the whole contest prep?
Okay, so I'm gonna tie two things in on this. Is a lot of guys when it comes to carbon up, they like to add insulin in the mix. And I figure that's probably a question you were going to ask anyways. So
Yeah.
I'll touch on that here. And that's something that I will not do. Like I remember probably my first real mentor was Factory. And I asked him, like, I think it was junior nationals. I was like, hey man, I brought a bottle of Humalog. Do you want me to use it? He's like, no, absolutely not. And it makes sense because I've seen more people screw up a contest prep from this than I've seen complete it with this. So like there's a small chance that you're going to take insulin and you're going to look better, but there's a much greater chance you're going to take insulin and you're going to blow it and there's going to be no return from that. And I would rather play it on the safe side of things and just use the food rather than trying to add insulin and then you're adding diuretics in the mix. A lot of people don't understand that when you add insulin to that mix, insulin can, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but insulin can actually flush out your potassium, right? So it can start messing with a few variables. So that's why I do not like to add that in there.
Yeah, maybe
But,
not flush, but they are actually taking from the blood into the mouth.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's not going to like
yeah, they're using it on the hospitals in a hypokalemia.
Yeah, they're not going. It's not going to flush you to nothing, but it's going to bring your levels way down. So like I don't like to mess with that. But as far as the food goes, every now and then you'll have an outlier to this as well. But I like to stick to mostly the same foods that we use during the contest prep. Like I can lower the protein back drastically the last couple of days. You know, I will lower that back a lot. And then I prefer to stick with, you know, the basic foods, rice, potatoes, oats. Some guys I can have grits in there. And then the day of the show, I like to use lighter food sources. You know, we can still use on the meals. I'm thinking about carbon up backstage here. We can still use meals in the morning, but like when you're backstage, I don't want you eating, you know, chicken and rice when you're 45 minutes out from the show. I'm going to have you doing lighter foods that's going to hit your stomach, hit your bloodstream a lot quicker, and is not going to bloat you at the same time.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. So what in a case of competing day after day? In Poland, we have a show like a regionals in a Sunday, and then, for example, like a pro qualifier on a Sunday. Yeah, so we have to pick twice day after day. So what in that case?
It sucks, but I've actually had to do it I've had to do that 3 times throughout my career. Is the Arnold, not the Arnold. It was the Orlando Pro. We had pre-judge on Friday and we had finals on Saturday. And then nationals, even when I turned pro, I had to do a 2-day show to get my pro card. And then the Olympia is also a 2-day event. So what I like to do is some of these guys, they like to try to play strategy and try to be better on one specific day. Obviously, the goal would be to be your best on both days. So if you have a full solid 24 hours, this makes my job very difficult. But at the same time, I like doing it because it's challenging at the same, like it can be it can be stressful. Let's put it that way. So I want to peak you for pre-judge, because if you're not 100% at pre-judge, if you're 5th place at pre-judge, you're not going to move from 5th to 1st the next day. So I want to make sure that pre-judge, we make a statement. And then once we've done that, I'll reintroduce water, because I don't want you to go 48 hours or longer without water here. So I'll reintroduce water, and usually the person will actually get a little bit fuller that night. And the next morning, I mean, they may be a little spilled that night too, but usually the next morning, I'm thinking, let's say take a guy who's 100 kilos, since we started with that in the beginning of our conversation. I'm thinking about 2 liters, 2.5 liters, because that's still going to put him in a safe zone. He's not going to like have any health problems with keeping it at 2 liters, but he's still going to stay dry, assuming that we are still pushing the carbs up as well. So I have to put that water in there just because I don't want someone's health being on my hands like that. And it usually works out good. They usually show up at the night show either as good or sometimes better than what they was at prejudge.
Okay, and what in the case of competing like a back-to-back show? So we have a one show in 1 week, and the next weekend our next show. So what
I've done that a lot myself, and I've done that a lot with clients doing shows back-to-back weekends. So I don't see any reason why you cannot peak for both shows. Obviously, you want to be 100% with your conditioning for the first show. And if you're 100% on the first show, the second one is just going to carry over. It's going to be simple for us. I'll tell people, like, if you know for a fact you're doing that second show, don't do anything dumb after the first one. You know, don't go binge eat. Don't do anything like that. Like, if you're in a good position, I may say, cool, have one meal out with your friends and family, just one. And then the next day, also tell them that night, drink as much water as you can. I need you to rehydrate absolutely as fast as possible. So preferably at least 4 liters of water after the show. Again, get everything started, get everything moving, get your stomach cleaned out, get everything ready to go for the following weekend. I don't want you to be in a dehydrated state, 3 days after the first show when you're still 4 days out. That's not going to end up well. So rehydrate first, and then the day after the show, we're probably going to pull the food back quite a bit. Because if we peaked good at the first show and you're full at the first show, you're about to spill over, right?
Yeah.
So I want to pull that back to minimize any rebound effect that you're going to have for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I wouldn't say it's going to be a full repeat. If there's any adjustments or tweaks that we needed to make from the first show, we're going to start that on Wednesday. If we nailed it perfect at the first show and I say, hey, look, there's nothing you could do to be any better, then we're pretty much going to do a repeat.
Okay.
Assuming that your body responded good Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and you did not rebound.
Yeah. That's totally makes sense. And most of the coaches that I've spoken with say
the hardest thing is getting people to not binge on on Saturday night after the show, because if they win the first show, they want to celebrate. Like my goal is to keep them tight, because what I don't want to do is the day after your show, you're going to be 6 days out from the following show. I don't want you to have to do 60 or 90 minutes of cardio and inflame your legs furthermore in order to get that weight off. I don't want you to go absolutely zero carb in order to get that weight off. I'd rather us just coast on in. Like, you got to have some mental strength and mental fortitude to just suffer for another 7 days, and then you can have fun.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even take into this to the consideration, because if I'm thinking about the competitors, I've always thinking about something who's professional. It doesn't matter if it's a pro guy or amateur guy. If you compete and you have next show, you shouldn't eat shit. That should be obvious. So I know your point of view, because I coach competitors as well, so I know what people can do sometimes, even night before the show. But that's
some people can't hold it together.
Yeah, I don't understand this. If you can hold it, you should switch the sport, because it's not for you, man. Yes.
If you have a bad relationship with food in general, bodybuilding may not be the wisest decision for you.
Yeah, you should go. You should go to the strong one, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people just are not meant to be able to handle that. I'm not saying they're bad people or anything like that. They're probably great people. I know of one guy. I'm not going to specifically name drop him here, but he's a pro, and he's really good too. And he will literally be fucking up at 1 day out from his competitions. And he's one of those guys, like, I can tell, I'll tell you about this off the air. but he would have potentially won the Olympia. But he never could get in shape good enough to do it. I mean, that narrows it down to a small select group of people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people are wondering on that. But yeah, it's again, sometimes you have some of the elite guys who still can't hold it together.
Okay. When we talking about binge eating and eating a lot in general, maybe not binge eating because that guy are actually a machine. I'm talking about Roman Fritz, and he's recently carbing up. Can you talk about a little bit why is that decision?
Okay, so I didn't prep Roman for that contest. I helped him the last couple of days.
Okay.
I did help him the last couple of days. He stayed at my house getting ready for the Tampa Pro. So he did his prep, and we talked about this as well. Me and him spoke about it. He was very, I wouldn't say Roman even has to be aggressive in his diet. Like, I think his carbs were lower than usual during that, but he went from like 296 to about 250, I think. And he did that in 5 weeks, though. That's a lot of weight. Considering Roman's biggest thing is I think he always he over diets himself when he's in prep. And I really want to see him 100% on stage one day. And I think for him to be 100%, he's going to have to be 260 plus on stage. And I think he can do it. Like, I really think he can do it. But the over dieting will catch him every time, because when his body takes off, it does not slow down. Like, it's very hard to put the brakes on for him. So when we trained, I think we trained on Sunday, and then we trained on, I'm pretty sure it was Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And each day I noticed, like, he's doing his own thing. He's doing his thing on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I noticed it's one of those situations I really wanted him to eat more. I really fucking did. Like, with him, he could eat more at, like, he could start carbing up at 3 weeks out. And I'm serious. He can really start carbing up at 3 weeks out and probably look his best on stage. So, he asked my opinion. Like, I wasn't going to offer my opinion until he asked for it. Like, that's just kind of how I am.
Yeah.
I hate whenever you're doing your own thing and someone always just feels the need to give you their opinion. Like, back when I would do my own prep, people would always ask me, like, well, I think you should do this. And I'm just thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, I think you should shut up. Like, that's what I want to say, is like, let me be. So, like, I was just wanting to train, like, help him go to the gym, give him a place to stay, take care of him, make sure he's comfortable. When he asked my opinion, I was like, okay, you have to start eating now. Like, so on Friday, whenever, like, he started eating, I knew he was incredibly flat, like the flattest he's ever been in his life. That, in my opinion, was the flattest Roman has ever been. So I said, look, I really don't care what you eat. At this point, we're going to control the water. I said, but I know Roman as well. I've known him for a long time. I know he's not going to spill. I wouldn't do this with. He may be the only person on the planet that I would do this with. Not maybe. He is the only person I've ever met in bodybuilding that I would try this with. I just said, eat. Whatever you think that you can get down, and you can get a lot of it down, we need to eat. Like, he can eat for probably 3 to 5 days and not train and still be a little bit flat. But again, that's not normal for a lot of people. So his food is just, I'm watching it, and I'm kind of just mesmerized at how much he can eat and not be incredibly bloated as well. But somehow his body sucks it all up, and he still has a nice tight waist on stage.
Yeah, Roman is actually a machine. It's something that is out of the world, and no one should actually do what he's doing. No one.
Yes, no, I don't recommend that to other people. And I saw people talk about this because he documented all of it with YouTube and Instagram, and I saw people talking about this, and I don't comment on it. It's like, I don't have time to go around to all the little YouTubers that think that they know something. But people were saying, oh, he's probably using a lot of insulin. I'll tell you guys this, he was not using insulin. I considered saying, hey, like, maybe you should use insulin. Like, I had it at the disposal, but we didn't use it. And that alone is pretty mind-blowing, the fact that he could eat that and still have normal glucose.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's probably just because his metabolism is crazy.
Yeah, he's just burning straight through everything.
Yeah, just because of the years of training 2 times a day, 6 to 7 times a week, and I think that's the reason why he's actually working as it's working for him.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of volume that he trains in the gym, and the fact that I think if Roman did not work out, he would be a rather small guy. Like if he didn't work out and didn't eat, he would be an incredibly small guy. His metabolism is just, if I'm not mistaken, me and him talked about this a couple of years ago, or maybe it's even been within the last year. But I asked him, I was like, have you ever had your thyroid checked? And it's actually normal. Like I was expecting like his T3 uptake to be incredibly high, but like his thyroid's normal, and he doesn't use any fat burners either, which is also fucking incredible. Like obviously with someone like him, I'd be like, no, you got to cut. If you use any fat burners, you got to get rid of that shit because it's obviously doing more harm than good. But he doesn't use any either. So his prep is his prep. It can't be really compared to anyone else's.
Yeah. It's just the Roman style.
Yeah.
Yeah. we can just end it like that. It's just the Roman style. He's one of the kind. And I dream about to speak with him one day on the podcast, but I can't get through him. So if you have the power to speak with him and mention about me, I will be appreciated. You there? Because you got.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll know the next time I speak with him.
Okay, that will be great. I will definitely wanted to talk about the training and diet and all the crazy stuff he did from the years, because he's a wonderful legend, I think, and one
yeah,
of
he's very. He'll be able to tell you everything, because hanging out with him for a week, I will say this: I have never been around anyone my entire life who has quite the same memory as Roman.
Yeah, I know that.
I guarantee you, he can tell you exactly what his chest workout was 3 days out.
Yes. Roman is known from that. I know he's always the guys from the Fuad Abiat podcast always ask him about the stuff like only him remembers. Like Evan Santapani in 2004 wear this and this, the white T-shirt, white Adidas and stuff like that, and we met here and here, and he eats this and this and everything. He's incredible.
Yeah, and that's what it was. Like I didn't quite catch it until like we were actually in Tampa, and he saw Fuad. He was there, and Ben was there, and Paul was there, and Fuad said, "Yeah, I think it's been a couple of years since we've seen each other." And Roman spits out the exact date, the exact show. And he says, "Oh, you were wearing like this shirt, this pants." Yeah. So I'm like, I'm kind of looking like, you fucking remember what he was wearing? I don't remember what I wore last week.
I have a friend, is actually my best friend, who have the same ability to remember stuff, unless he has, but because he's now lost his magic. But I remember he was always the guy who remembers everything. Everyone's birthday, what he's wearing when, the phone numbers, everything. Those people are just mind blown. Okay, but let's get back to the coaching stuff, okay? Because I have I think 3 to 4 more questions. Let's say we end our competition prep, and this is the time that you will consider to go on the rebound, or something more like a health phase.
I think that could be answered in 2 ways, but for the most part, I would like to have the rebound right after the show. So if someone's done an incredibly long contest prep, say 20 plus weeks, the rebound is either going to be really short, or I would rather just clean out completely. Just again, go into like a health phase, either do a PCT or go down to TRT, change the screens here. Do something like that. Now, if we've done an 8-week or 10-week or 12-week contest prep, I'm cool with a 6 to 8 week rebound after the show. I do think that that's where you're going to gain the vast majority of your muscle. Like, I feel like I can grow more in 2 months after the show than I can the other 10 months of the year.
Okay, and if you're doing a rebound with your guys, you leave all the gear or lower it or raise it or
no, I change it. I don't feel there's any need for like Master on, Winch Straw, and Tren, stuff like that during that rebound. I don't feel there's any need for orals. We could even so much as swap out like a Remodex for Nolvadex, assuming that their body does not aromatize any heavier than that. But I like to keep it to like a basic. Pretty much 2 injectables and growth.
Okay.
That way we're kind of detoxing off the orals, letting the liver recuperate. Blood donation you could do. I would prefer someone to do that because chances are their hemoglobin is getting a little bit high at that point.
That's a risky thing, actually, to give a blood, I think.
Do what?
That's the risky thing, because if you gave a blood, your body starts to produce it more. So it's sometimes when you don't have the need, it's better to actually not doing it. But I know
if you don't need to donate,
yeah.
If you don't need to donate, but most people, especially when you're running stuff like EQ, the hemoglobin is going to start getting higher. And I don't think too heavy about it until someone, if you're like 17.5 or 18 on your hemoglobin, that's when you're going to need to either do a phlebotomy with your doctor or you're actually going to donate blood, whichever one. But I've seen some guys that doesn't seem to affect them no matter what they take. And I know they're taking real stuff. And I've seen some guys that's very, very sensitive. I can't remember. It's very rare. It's a condition where your body will actually just naturally overproduce red blood cells. So like there's people out there who don't take anabolics, who don't work out, they don't do anything, and they still have to do like a phlebotomy every 3 to 6 months just to make sure that that's the range.
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify that that's the only if you really need it and if it's really high, because some guys are thinking old ways that you have to donate it a couple times a year just because, and that's not the healthiest approach. I think using the nattokinase or something like baby aspirin and keeping your hydration very, very consistent is most of the time doing their jobs, and most of the people don't need to donate their blood.
Yeah, I mean, that's why if someone gets their blood work done at least a couple of times a year, you'll be able to see where the red blood cell counts are. Yeah,
that's what you guys should do. The blood works. That's for the end of the podcast, because I think I'll ask all of the questions I actually wanted to know from you when it comes to the coaching stuff. So I'm really, really happy that you are agreed to come to my podcast, because actually you're one of my favorite bodybuilders of all the time. Right now, I watch all of your YouTube videos all over again when I do in my cardio. So in this 16 weeks contest prep, I've been with you always every day. I don't care how it sounds, but that's actually a truth. So you're big motivations for me.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And I hope that maybe someday you'll come back to the podcast. Maybe even with Roman. That would be a great thing. Especially you're right now gonna coaching him.
No, Roman's doing. I think he's going to do a couple of other shows this year. Like, in my opinion, I mean, I'm just saying how I see it. I don't think he should do that. That's up to him. I mean, if he hasn't reached out to me, so I don't know what exactly he's doing. I mean, I'm assuming he do his own diet. I mean, he's done his diet most of his career. So I think what would have been better for him is to shut it down and recuperate, and then start slower on the next show instead of doing a 5-week prep, he needs to do like a 10-week prep and just go slower at it.
I think the one problem that's actually not a problem when it comes to Roman is that he loves it too much.
He does, man. And he's the only guy I've ever seen this to be with. I remember when I did the Arnold Hong Kong with him, we were backstage and he asked me, he's like, do you want to go work out or you want to go to the gym? I was like, no, man, I just got off the stage. Like, I don't need to work out right now. But he did. And he's always done that. Like at Tampa, we hadn't left the building yet. And he asked me about going to the gym. I was like, you sure you haven't showered? You haven't done anything? Like, you want to go to the gym? He's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm like, fuck. I mean, he does love it. Like, you could take the stage away from him and he's still going to do exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. This is the true passion, and this is why I love Roman. This reason is why I love Roman, because he's a real bodybuilder from all of these years. He never stops what he's, even though his hips are replaced, even though he have multiple problems with his body, and he's always getting through.
Yep.
Okay. But thank you for the podcast. If someone get through the end of the podcast, don't forget to click the notification bell, to subscribe, to leave a comment, and obviously to use my codes for the discount for the supplements or peptides. So all of the links you find down there. And obviously make sure you follow Justin, but that's probably what you've done already. But all of the social media and contacts to the Justins are down below in the description box. So thank you once again, and thank you for watching the podcast.
Yeah, no worries, man. No problem. Have a good day.
Bye.